Yo, what's up everybody? SloMoBackSlap here, hitting you with another video. Today we're going to do a quick summary of the special Inside Xbox event that was supposed to be a Xbox Series X gameplay reveal, but really kind of didn't turn out that way. So if you're not aware, Xbox came out, said that they were going to do Xbox Series X game reveals for this special edition Inside Xbox. And what they're also doing from now until the launch of the Xbox Series X is they're doing something they call Xbox 2020, which would be them revealing things about the Xbox Series X, the games, the hardware, the features, all that stuff every month from now until launch, likely sometime in October. And so I thought, hey, like messaging wise, that's a great idea. I think that's really good. That transparency, I guess that's where they get the 2020 from. They're being so transparent with the customers, the gamers, the consumer, that they're not holding anything back. And I think that they've been really on point with messaging so far in 2020 up until now. So although they got this Xbox 2020 thing happening, and that's great, their very first reveal in this 2020 is in May, and it's supposed to be an Xbox Series X reveal inside Xbox. Now, one good thing they did do was they came out and they told us ahead of time that there will be no first party games here, no second party games here. All these games shown will be third party games, but they'll be running on Xbox Series X. And so therefore, hey, that's the draw here. That's what people wanted to see. They wanted to see new games they hadn't seen before, running on hardware that's next gen hardware. But what we got were more smaller games from smaller indie developers for the most part. And these games didn't really look any different than what you see from current gen. Now we can get into a topic on that about how a lot of these developers, for example, FYQD Studio with Bright Memory Infinite, have gone from just one guy, literally one guy working on the game, to a very small team of a dozen. And that seeing where that game is in the past, years past, you wouldn't see that kind of graphical fidelity coming from studios that small before. So there is somewhat of a jump and improvement in tools and the APIs that these developers use for their games going into the future, so that the gap between AAA and AA can be shortened. The visual difference between what you see from a much smaller studio to these big huge studios that have hundreds of developers, we're all working on one game, the gap is being shortened a little bit. Yet at the same time, what we saw wasn't really all that groundbreaking. And what the real big issue here is that this was supposed to be a gameplay reveal that didn't show very much gameplay. And I'm sorry, if you're the kind of person that thinks that what you saw was gameplay, that's not true. Getting in-engine footage of a game running is not gameplay running on an Xbox Series X. That's in-engine footage running off of a PC. Getting these disclaimers at the bottom of the screen saying this is a reconstruction, this is representative of what you will be seeing on Xbox Series X, is not Xbox Series X gameplay. These trailers with their deep cuts and vertical slices, that's not gameplay. That's not what we saw. We may have saw a grand total of 2 to 3 games that showed any kind of gameplay, and I'm fairly certain at least one of them was not running on an Xbox Series X but on PC. So very disappointing that this is how it turned out. What I will say for a positive for Inside Xbox is I like the change in format. Previously, Inside Xbox would just be so boring because they would show games, then they would show gameplay of a game, and then they'll be going deep into interviews. And I think most people just don't care about that stuff. I don't care about that stuff at that time. Let that interview be a separate upload that you do on your YouTube channel outside of the stream. Most people don't care about that at that time. And I think the change in format of showing all the games first, then doing the 2 or 3 interviews they had at the end, really allowed people that if you don't care about that stuff, you could have turned off this Inside Xbox stream at that point. And that's fine. You don't have to look at the interviews that they had, because they're not going to show any more games. Now, I think if they would have relayed that to the viewers, that would have been even better, because the people would have known is there really nothing else coming? If so, I'm gonna check out. People would have known that ahead of time, but I could just tell after the first interview rolled directly into another interview with a different developer that, oh, they're done with showing the games. Okay, that makes sense now. So I think they should keep that format going forward, but definitely let the viewers know that that's what's going to happen, so that those who want to continue on watching it and want to see those interviews, they're interested in what those developers have to say about the development of their game, any other little details like that. They can continue on and watch that, where the people who just want to see more games can just move on and go do something else with their life. Now, all that said, let's get into the actual games that were shown. So first, Aaron Greenberg came up and he spoke a little bit, and he also said that he reiterated we will not see Xbox Game Studio first party games until July. And then he made a quick mention this probably isn't all they're going to show in July, but just something that was probably on the forefront of his mind, that we're going to see Halo Infinite, hopefully gameplay, better be gameplay considering it's coming out later this year, projects from Double Fine, which would be somewhat interesting. I didn't think Double Fine would have anything beyond maybe Psychonauts 2 available to be shown right now. Ninja Theory, another one that's somewhat interesting considering that Hellblade 2 and Project Mara seem like two projects that are not very close to launch. And Obsidian, which hopefully isn't just them showing Grounded, but potentially the other AAA RPG that they're currently working on. So that's something that's coming in July, and we can get into that later on, but let's get into the games that were actually shown today. And so the very first game shown was Bright Memory Infinite, and if you guys are familiar with my content, you know I've already played and did a video on Bright Memory Infinite, and you can see that right there. It should be popping up now. You can check that video out and see my thoughts in the actual further gameplay of that game at that time. Bright Memory is available on Steam right now. It's available in kind of like early access, so to speak. Essentially what you can do is that you can spend $20 on Bright Memory, play probably at the most an hour of the game. And I know that might sound like a pretty steep price for just that much content. It may not be 20, maybe 10. I can't remember right now, but it's definitely not a lot of money, but it's also not exactly a great trade-off for how much gameplay you're actually getting. But if you do so, you will get to have and own Bright Memory Infinite for no additional charge when that game comes out later this year. So there is a payoff to that. If you like what you saw from the trailer and you are a PC gamer, I recommend go ahead and doing that. You're going to get the full game for free, and you can play a part of it ahead of time. Now, what I played was a different version of the game. Everything that was shown in the trailer was not really seen. That map was not playable in the game that I played. Some of the gameplay has changed up a little bit, but it looks a lot smoother. The shooting mechanics seem to have been tightened up a bit. The game looks a little bit more polished. The vehicle there was something that was not present at all in the earlier version of the game, as well as grappling enemies was also not present. The grappling hook was present, but just not in that way. It was more about platforming, traversal, that kind of stuff. That game it seems to be a lot of fun. It definitely was a game I enjoyed playing. I liked being able to juggle enemies in the air. I liked having a sword that had the kind of range that it had. I liked the shooting mechanics. It's fun, and I think it's probably maybe my top game that was shown at this show. So, all right, moving on. After that, they showed Dirt 5. Don't really care about racing games like that. It looked okay. It looked pretty cool. This one is being supported by Smart Delivery, which is essentially you're getting the assets that you need for Xbox Series X, so that you'll have, let's say if the game supports ray tracing or whatever, then you'll be able to get that with the version of the game that you own for the platform that you own. If you have an Xbox One X, you're not going to get that kind of feature. So it looked okay, although I don't think what we saw was actual gameplay from it, but whatever, moving on. After that, they showed Scorn, which really disgusted me, and I don't know what that was. That's going to Xbox Game Pass. I will pass on that because games like that kind of freak me out, but it is a Xbox console exclusive, so it's only going to be on the Xbox consoles as well as PC. I'm not playing it, but you do what you do. Next up was Chorus, which looked like a shooter, but I can't tell if the parts where you see the girl are just strictly cutscenes or whether that was actual gameplay we were seeing in the ships, and whether it's just like that stuff is in between missions. But I mean, if you're into that kind of spaceship shooter game, then hey, cool. I don't really care too much about that one. It also supports smart delivery, supposed to be coming out in 2021. They quickly went into Madden, which had no purpose in really being there. It supposedly supports smart delivery, although EA kind of walked that back a little bit. Gameplay really wasn't gameplay, but so be it. It's Madden. I don't expect it to play any differently than any other Madden that you may have played the last 5 years. So moving on, they had Sarah Bond come out and talk about how publishers are supporting Xbox Series X. Showed the graphic with literally almost every publisher known to man showing on it. So the games are going to be there as far as third party is concerned. I don't think anyone was doubting that, but it's a good showing from their part that they got games coming down the pipeline for the system. From there, they showed Vampire Masquerade 2 Bloodlines. I'm not interested in this game. Looked very current gen-ish, but I have heard some good things about this game. I haven't played the previous game, but I guess people who did play the previous game are excited about it. Cool. We'll see. Next up was Call of the Sea, which also supports smart delivery and will be going to Xbox Game Pass. Looked the art style is a lot less realistic. Not really something that I'm too interested in, but there's that. The Ascent. I saw a lot of people really liking this, kind of like a twin shooter, and it has a very cyberpunk aesthetic, a very cyberpunk feel to it. That looked pretty interesting, although I'm not into the twin stick shooter kind of genre game, so I'm going to pass on this, but I think this is something that I think people will be keeping an eye out for, and it also supports smart delivery. This one that I was really interested in was The Medium, and the music for this is being done by Akira Yamaoka. I probably butchered that, I apologize, but Akira did the music for Silent Hill. This looks like to be some kind of horror game in the vein of Silent Hills and The Evil Within. I'm really usually not into those kind of games, but I really like the visual look to it, and the trailer really kind of pulled me in with all the different things that were going on. I'm pretty interested in this one. I'm probably going to do a video in the future on this, so look out for that soon. Next up is Scarlet Nexus being published by Bandai Namco, which I'm definitely going to do a follow-up video on soon. It gives me a lot of vibes of Astral Chain, and I really like that anime art style to it, so look out for that. That one's being supported by Smart Delivery. Second Extinction was also shown, which looked like some kind of survival first-person shooter game. I'm not really into survival games like that, but shooters, I'm always down to try a shooter. This one is being supported by Smart Delivery. Very little shown. I don't know what we saw was actual gameplay or not, but that one was probably the shortest, had the shortest amount of time dedicated to it, but looks somewhat interesting. And then also there was Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is coming to Xbox Series X, which is very interesting. Looks like all the Yakuza games are now going to be multi-platform and not just showing up first on PlayStation and then eventually going to other platforms. And if you're into the Yakuza series, you're probably going to really enjoy this and really like it. That one is supporting smart delivery. They did also say that it will be a part of the Xbox Series X launch. So I'm thinking that Yakuza Like a Dragon will be out in like October, November. And then we have probably the one thing that really probably irked people the most, which is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which even Ubisoft came out and said that they were going to be showing gameplay. Now, one of their directors for the game did say that they weren't going to be showing gameplay, but I think when your official Twitter account and your official website are saying you're going to show gameplay, most people aren't going to be able to see one tweet from one director saying that's not true. And what we got here was pretty much exactly what the director said. This was not gameplay. This was, if anything, in-game cutscenes for the most part. It looks good, and I really enjoyed the music that they had playing during the trailer. I thought that was pretty cool, but it's disappointment when you think you're going to get gameplay and then you don't. So I don't know what Ubisoft is holding off for. They showed the trailer last week. What they showed us today wasn't very much more than that. So I think they should have just showed gameplay. I don't know if they're waiting for next month, if they're going to still do some kind of Ubisoft press conference on their own, completely separate, because of course E3 is canceled to show the gameplay. But there's also this thought, and I think they actually may have insinuated this, that they were going to show more than just Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but more games. But that's all they showed on the Ubisoft front. So again, disappointing, but ultimately not that big a deal. But I think in the future, they're going to really need to make sure that they are messaging these events correctly. In regards to the interviews, I think probably the only real notable things here is that for some reason, both Nolan North and Troy Baker are in Dirt 5. I think that's kind of weird. It's a racing game. You got two really big name voice actors doing voiceover work in a racing game. I just thought that was a little weird. The Medium is being made by Blooper Team. The main character is a medium who can see between two different worlds, like the real world and the spiritual world. And apparently there will be 0 loading screens between worlds, which is probably likely something that is a benefit of SSD, and you probably won't get that benefit with Xbox One games. So that's my video. Overall, a bit disappointing because we were expecting to see gameplay, and a lot of gameplay, since you label the event a gameplay reveal event, and that was the one thing we got the least amount of. They need to fix that for their June event. They need to make sure all the messaging is on point, that what you're saying is lining up with what people are going to see. And they need to be consistent with that going forward, because people will get frustrated and they'll be looking towards what their competition is going to do versus what they're going to deliver. But let me guys know how you guys feel about the special Inside Xbox. Were you disappointed? Were you excited? What games were you interested in and that you're looking forward to in the future? Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. It's all good. And hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Peace.